Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to week number 6 of the Ray Esports Racing League's Spring Tour, presented by Spec Racer Sports, Alliance Autosport, and Grassroots Motorsports Magazine here on Apex Racing TV. Over the course of our 9-week season and then the winner-take-all runoffs, we hope to bring you some of the best racing around in 3 different classes well known to club racers here in the United States: Spec Miata, Spec Racer Ford, and the RE2 Formula cars. So welcome everybody back after a 1-week hiatus, and after many of the league's best drivers and I spent last Tuesday battling in F4 and TCR cars for some non-points races at the home of British Motorsport and the Formula One Championship, Silverstone. Tonight we get things back on track by heading to the circuit that's just about as fast, America's National Park of Speed and home of the kink, Road America. I'm Greg Ginsburg, and joining me in the commentary box tonight, filling in for Brian Donati, we've got Tyler Campbell, and of course, as always, we've got Dennis Branch in the virtual production trailer, bringing you all the great views and angles from this iconic American racetrack. As always, we'll have 2 20-minute sprint races to the checkered flag, and first up, we've got those RE2 Formula cars, which are very well suited to this 4-mile, 14-turn monster. And then getting their draft on, and I don't mean spotted cow, will be the Spec Miatas, the MX-5s, to round out the evening. So getting the night off this week is going to be the Spec Racer Ford class, and they'll join us next week at Summit Point Raceway. And so welcome, Tyler. Great to have you here, taking and coming actually directly from your exploits in the Skip Barber Formula iRacing series. Great to have you join us here in the booth.
And it's great to be here, Greg. Thanks for inviting me to commentate with your distinguished self. So it's always, the pleasure is all mine.
Thanks, Tyler. So, tonight, and we've got our drivers there out on track right now. We're about halfway through the 15-minute qualifying session, so we're going to move things along here pretty quickly. But the RE2 racers, who we did see 2 weeks ago at Lime Rock Park, probably I'm sure you would agree, a big change racing here with, able to maybe get their elbows out a little bit, maybe to use the right foot a little bit more here at Road America, as opposed to being bottled up in the tight confines of Lime Rock Park, where they also had to contend with the chicane a couple of weeks ago, the last time we saw them.
Oh yeah, completely different track. The flow is completely different. The speed is much higher. And I was just coming off practicing the F4 here just a few minutes ago, and so yeah, it's really timing the entry rotation with your brakes, and then that's really going to determine who's gonna be quick here. Whereas at Lime Rock Park, yeah, you got a lot of flow, but it's really about nailing the line there. Here, it's a lot more important on the entry and exits to get those long straights lined up for you.
Yeah, and the first time I came here and the first time I raced here, I looked at this track as essentially a bunch of 90-degree turns tied together by some very long straightaways.
Exactly.
And you have to be able to carry speed in, and most importantly, given how long many of these straightaways are, as we watch on track right now, Wayne Buttermore coming out of the final corner, turn 14, you have to be able to carry speed because you have incredibly long straightaways. And if you come out of a corner 2 miles an hour slower than the guy right behind you, well, there's a good chance that he's probably going to be about a car length to 2 car lengths ahead of you when you get down to the braking zone at the end of that straightaway. All right, so let's do this very quickly as we're talking about what happened 2 weeks ago at Lime Rock Park. Let's do just a quick little recap here of that race. We had Jamison Huffman and John Vogel, who are 2 drivers that are, I think, right now in the top 4 in qualifying here. They were on your front row at Lime Rock. We had Caleb Patry and Morgan Burkhardt, who right now are first and second here in qualifying. We also had Nagisa Yoshikawa and Justin Huffman, Jamison's father, rounding out and making up the first 3 rows. And John Vogel, he jumped off to a very early lead. He got around Jamison Huffman, and then at the end of lap number 1, still on cold tires, we had Caleb Patry drop the wheel coming out of the downhill, the very last corner at Lime Rock. And I'll tell you, he made one heck of an entry into the pit lane. Probably not the way he wanted to do it. He did it at about 80 miles an hour sideways and had debris strewn all along the pit lane. It ended his day. On lap 5, we had Morgan Burkhardt make his way past Jamison Huffman, and Huffman at that point was running in second, and then Burkhardt would be able and find his way finally to draft up to John Vogel on lap number 15. So with not much time left, about 8 minutes in the 20-minute race, he was up to our leader with about 4.5 seconds on the entire rest of the field. But John Vogel was able to hold him off for those last 8 minutes. Margin of victory for Vogel over Burkhardt, 25 hundredths, a 1/4 of a second. Jamison Huffman managed to hold off Yoshikawa by 11 hundredths of a second to take the last step on the podium. So if we take a look at the point standings in RE2, and this, I believe, is after 4 rounds in the RE2s. I believe this is the 5th of 6 races tonight. Jamison Huffman is currently tied with John Vogel with 64 points. It is then a 2-way tie for third with Morgan Burkhardt and Jordy Fike at 48 points. Then we've got Justin Huffman sitting in 5th. So very, very tight there, and Justin only 8 points back. So at this point still, as we are now about 2/3 of the way through the championship in RE2, it is really anybody's game. Things are still incredibly tight here in RE2, Tyler.
Yeah, absolutely. And knowing Nagisa, he builds setups for these cars. Well, not for these cars specifically, for Indy Pro 2K. So the Indy Pro Series, the step up from this in the Indy line. And so he definitely knows his way around these types of open wheel cars. So I expect him to, as you see, is 4th, to definitely put a challenge up for all the guys up front. And wouldn't be surprised if he sneaks into the championship here in the final few rounds.
All right, and yeah, we'll have to watch. He had some challenges at Lime Rock Park. Had a couple places where he dropped wheels. I think in particular coming through Big Bend, coming through turns 1 and 2, were a trouble spot for him. But again, I think as we mentioned, perhaps the layout here is maybe a little bit more simplistic than at Lime Rock Park, but obviously you've got to have the setup right, and you've got to get these braking zones nailed in order to carry speed. And so a couple of new names joining the series here with us this week. Of course, we've had John Vogel, we've had Grant Vogel, father and son, and I don't think Grant is here this weekend, but this week we are joined by Connor Vogel in the number 67 machine. There's Connor as he's making his way into the kink, and I would suspect that Connor is another one of the sons, either that or he's like Old Faithful and Grandpa, but I'm sure we'll get some more information about that. We also have Zihao Liu running sixth fastest right now in the 053 machine. And as I said, now he is sixth fastest. So as Jameson Huffman just gets around him here on the timing tower with just about a minute left to go in qualifying. So welcome to our new drivers, I think, rejoining us after some time away. Andrew Benna in the number 71 machine, and Deacon Greenfield, they're in the number 36 machine. Had a fairly successful run at Lime Rock. I believe he finished up. I believe he finished up in 11th position, if I remember correctly. So just out of the top 10. But again, very, very difficult there at Lime Rock. We had a 20-plus car field, and not a ton of passing opportunities unless you really mess things up at that chicane and take a sausage curb.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more passing opportunities compared to Lime Rock, but with all those 90-degree corners, it's still hard because there's not a ton of hard braking zones. I mean, you got the run down to what did that be? Turn 3,
turn 5.
Turn 5, yeah, because it counts the way it counts the corners.
Yes.
But even then, it's still you could take that extra wide entry, but it's still a challenge. Luckily, you can take it too wide through a lot of these corners and not absolutely murder each other.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing here is the checkered flag is now out on the session. We'll run down the grid here in just a moment, but you have to be careful, Tyler. Obviously, with a lot of these corners, if you go too wide, you are seriously compromising your exit speed on some of these corners, and all it takes is for the third car to be sitting back there and get a good run. And the track here at 55 feet wide, almost the entire way around from start finish line all the way until you get back around 4 miles later. There's a lot of width here to go 3 wide. And very hard to defend if you've got that trailing car, perhaps with 7 or 8 miles an hour on you because you decided to go side by side with somebody through Canada Corner, for example.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's definitely possible. I mean, there's Morgan can do it. John Vogel, great to see him up there in second place because he's always a pleasure to drive with, very clean. So it should be interesting to see how it goes. I think we may have a pack foreman, but I think it's going to be more than 3 this time. We'll see.
Yeah, it is quite possible, and this is one of those places where the draft is definitely king. All right, so real quick as we get ready here, we're going to have the starting grid come out in just a moment. Why don't we now? We'll talk about very quickly, Dennis, our sponsor for tonight's first race, and that is Alliance Autosport, based in Columbus, Ohio, where they found success both at the club and professional levels, garnering multiple championships, including 8 SCCA national championships, 3 SCCA Pro Racing Championships, and a USF 2000 National Class Championship. Alliance Autosports team members are dedicated, hardworking, and know what it takes to win. Alliance is SCCA Enterprises' Great Lakes Division customer service rep for Formula Enterprises 2 and Spec Racer Ford, and their services include arrive and drive packages for Spec Racer Ford Gen 3, FE2, and also for Trans Am. They also offer customer car prep, trackside support, transportation, storage, parts sales, data analysis, hospitality, and driver coaching and development. To join Alliance Autosport on the winning track, check them out at allianceautosport.com. And since we have a shortened pace lap here, let's go and we'll run down the starting grid. Tyler, do you want to take the reins for this race?
Yeah, you know what? Why not? So, starting on pole there, we got Morgan Burkhart, always quick in qualifying, half a second up on Connor Vogel, who put in a lap right there at the end to take second away from John Vogel, who starts third. We got Caleb Patry in fourth, Nagasai Yoshikawa in fifth, Jameson Huffman in sixth, Zhao Lu in 7th, Justin Huffman in P8, John Wilson P9, Jordy Fike P10, Andrew Wozencroft P11, and Deegan Greenfield P12. And after that, we got Andrew Benna P13, Charles Vaccaro in P14, Joshua Justice P15, Joaquin Effinger in his purple livery in P16, Wayne Buttermore in his bright every-colored livery in P17, John Casey P18, and you got Greg Mack and Sandy Tatula, who I don't believe put in a time, but they'd be 19th and 20th if they grid up.
Yeah, and we'll see if they do come out and run with us tonight. Satullo was out in practice, and longtime Spec Racer Ford racer in real life, and had we'll call it a very challenging week at Lime Rock Park 2 weeks ago. As again, we've got this very short pace lap. The field is coming through turn 14 onto the Road America straight. Our front straight here, we've got our pole sitter. It is Morgan Burkhardt to the inside driver's right. Then we've got to the outside Connor Vogel in the 67 machine. Driver's left, Patry and John Vogel sitting in row 2. Of course, the pace car is already on pit lane, just waiting for that green flag. Very nicely formed as opposed to what we saw at Lime Rock a week ago. And shooting the inside gap is Caleb Patry, and he has noticed that, and he was side by side with Vogel, and Patry gets together with Grant Vogel, and they are off, and their race is over as quickly as it has begun. Somehow John Vogel managed to not lock wheels up as Patry went down the inside, and he manages to hold on to second behind Morgan Burkhardt. Then we've got Yoshikawa in third, then Jamison Huffman, then Zhao then Justin Huffman and Jordy Fike as they start to get in line. We just had John Wilson, who poked to the inside a little bit, coming out of turn 3, making the run down the Marine sweep. He gets in back behind Jordy Fike with Justice right behind, and now they fan out. Burkhardt getting a little defensive for the first time down into turn 5 as our leaders start to make their way up the hill towards the Corvette Bridge and over to turn 6. So Tyler, what did you think? As we have a couple more cars off, and I think that is the looks like Charles Vaccaro went off, and that might have been Josh Justice, yeah, in the 399 machine, who's now fallen all the way to the back of the pack, back behind Wayne Buttermore. So I was going to ask Tyler, what do you think of that move, trying to shoot the gap in the middle there? There, didn't seem to be a ton of room there.
No, there wasn't a ton of room, and it was interesting. It looked like John Vogel wasn't really expecting or knew that anybody was there. You'll see when he jumps to the inside, he kind of just maintains, and it looks like he gets a little bit squeezed there. Yeah, right there.
Like,
see, it just.
Yeah, it looks like John Vogel made the tiniest of little moves to the left. Patry responded, and Grant Vogel, I mean, he was already on the very edge of the track.
Morgan Burkhardt on the outside of John Vogel here, as you said, and Kenda cornered her too wide.
Yeah, and here they come, and Burkhardt manages to hold him off, but now you can see Yoshikawa trying to make the run up the inside, coming through Bill Mitchell Bend, and he is now side by side with Vogel as they go under braking in the 14. Vogel manages to hold off, but this may make things a little bit easier on Jamison Huffman as they come out of 14, heading up the hill, up the Road America straight, and you can see here just how important it is to get in line and not go side by side through that final corner, especially since you've got that steep uphill. And so coming down into turn 1 to start lap number 2, it is Morgan Burkhardt. Nagase Yoshikawa has made his way up to second. Zhao Lu has made his way into third. John Vogel has now dropped into fourth, and he gets together with the 053 of Lu, and Lu is off in the dirt coming out of turn number 3. Very unfortunate there as Vogel gets the elbows out a little bit, and maybe is holding off Huffman just a bit here as well, going into 5 as we have looks like Justice has gone around once again. That was coming out of turn 3 as well.
Yeah, he's got to have some damage or something. But yeah, that's really unfortunate because Lou actually had made up 2 positions there. He actually passed Huffman and Vogel coming to T1, which is very impressive. Because you said, that gives the advantage to Jamison. It looked like Jamison was actually getting held up. So yeah, we'll see a replay of it here. John Vogel's, he's going to try to take this position back, almost like an over-under. And just looks like a little bit too much turning than from Lou, and just not much you can do. At least they only banged wheels. That at least one car will get away with most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. You don't see them both flying through the air when that happens. But yeah, I think not to not to play steward here, but it looks like Lou perhaps pinched down to the apex a little bit too much there. I thought Vogel pretty much held his line as they come through the kink now, that high speed. And Vogel taking to the grass, going down the kettle bottoms into Canada corner. And I'll tell you, I had a driver do that to me once and actually spun me out there at about 115 miles an hour. It's not fun when you don't realize somebody's trying to make that move.
Exactly. And watching it, you think, oh, it's basically a straight, you get the draft, but you're driving straight. The road's definitely not straight. The track is definitely going back and forth. And so it looks opportune because you usually get a run coming out of the kink, but it is quite difficult to make sure that the driver in front knows you're there.
Yeah, so we've got a little bit of a breakaway right now with Burkhardt and Yoshikawa. They have now opened up about a 1.8 second advantage, and you can see about 15 car lengths back now is Jamison Huffman and John Vogel go side by side into one. Vogel manages to hold off Huffman, but Huffman not finished yet. Oh, he does poke back in line as they came under the Briggs and Stratton Bridge. He got in behind the number 4 car, and he's going to try and draft. Try to take the draft rather than going side by side into this very long straight, actually the longest straight at Road America. And we can see here as these RE2 drivers, they are topping 140 miles an hour, heading down into the braking zone here for turn number 5.
Yep, and it looks like he wanted to drop back because that turn 3 there, as we saw, it's actually very hard to take too wide. It's not ideal. So I think that in that incident we saw with Lou, it seems like you can take it too wide. You can't take it too wide. Jamison did a good job just getting back in line, and then I think ended up just messing up his entry a little bit there. Looks like he got a little loose on entry and had lost him that opportunity down the straight.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that turn 3, never mind the downhill entry into it, but as I was saying, that's a whole bunch of 90-degree turns tied together by straightaways. Indeed, turn 3 is a slightly decreasing radius, and if you don't turn in late there, you can find yourself running out of pavement very, very quickly. As a matter of fact, I think we saw Huffman use every little last bit of that exit curbing.
And there's a really brutal bump there that just the exit curb rises up where it becomes grass, and these cars run extremely low to the ground. I can't tell you how many times I've high centered it at some of the tracks on a tiny little curb. So he definitely felt that one if he had that bump.
All right, so we're on board right now. We were just watching Jordy Fike running in 7th, trailing right behind John Wilson and Justin Huffman. And as we fall a little bit further back, we were talking about Deacon Greenfield a little bit earlier. He and Andrew Wozencroft, actually most of the drivers in this part of the field, have picked up about 3 spots.
Greg Mack. Greg Mack just took it. Looks like he got a little too much of the exit curb on the last corner.
That's it. At turn 14, dropped the wheel, brought the rear end around, and got into the wall. And it's also pretty common occurrence there. The car gets unloaded quite a bit as you come out of Bill Mitchell, and the braking moment there is somewhat difficult, and you got it. Dropped the wheel, went straight to the tire wall.
Yep, I'm almost wondering if he got some of the grass under braking and couldn't get the car slowed all the way, because that's usually what'll catch a lot of drivers out. You try to get the wide entry, you catch a little bit right before it comes to the curb. There's a little bit of patch of grass right there, and it'll either spin you or it'll compromise your whole corner, and that's unfortunate for him. He was actually 9 positions up, having started in the back, so tough to see him out of the race after gaining so many positions early.
All right, so we're about 7.5 minutes into this 20-minute race. Your leaders, Morgan Burkhardt, Nagase Yoshikawa running in 2nd, just about 3 car lengths back, and certainly still within the draft. And with these cars, Tyler, it's not like running in the Spec Miatas where you expect them to be, inches away from the bumper of the car in front of them. So pretty normal distance here. John Vogel sitting back in 3rd, but the gap back to Vogel now just about 1.3 seconds from Yoshikawa back to that back to the number 4 machine. Then we've got Jamison Huffman not all that far behind him. So starting to and pardon me, Jamison Huffman not all that far behind. And you can see the 3rd pack, so running in pairs here. We've got Justin Huffman and John Wilson, the 223 and the 82 machine, nose to tail, and then following right behind Jordy Fike, who we were tracking just a little while ago. Looks like he's on the move as well.
Yeah, it's wondering if the track temp's just a little hot here because they're not running as quick of a pace as I would imagine, even up at the front. I mean, let's see what he comes across the line here, but they ran a 209.2, yeah, 209.6 for Morgan Burkhart this last. So they're not really gaining a whole lot, yeah. So
Yeah.
then there you go with the track temp and the weather on the side there. So it only 89 degrees Fahrenheit. That's kind of surprising that I feel like they're not able to go as quickly here. I'm kind of surprised.
Still,
by that,
still
honestly.
somewhat cool temperatures here at Road America in mid-April.
And we can ask if Nagisa makes it on the podium. We can ask him. This is actually his home track. So he actually told me earlier this week that while it's his home track, it's definitely not his best track, but he's definitely giving Morgan a run for his money here.
Yeah, he certainly is here. Now we can see side by side, we've got Greenfield and Andrew Wozencroft. Now Wozencroft had a very early incident coming out of the right-hander at Lime Rock 2 weeks ago and made a good recovery drive given the amount of damage that had been done. But good run for him with Deacon Greenfield. And now we're looking at Lou in the 053 car trying to make that recovery again. He had been up as high as third when he got together with John Vogel at the end, or actually I guess at the beginning of lap number 2. And you can see Joaquin Effinger in the 700 machine trying to keep pace with that 053. They are currently running at 10th and 11th.
Yep, and if Wozencroft and Greenfield keep fighting, I mean, honestly, I could see Lou catching him because he ran the fastest lap on the track, I believe, last lap. Actually, John Wilson, I believe, had the fastest lap, but you know they're on pace with the leaders right now. So you know there's a battle on track. It could accordion in quite quickly.
Well, and as you said that, one of those drivers has already taken care of it. We saw. As we saw Deacon Greenfield go around coming out of turn number 8, heading over towards the carousel, and Lou had to take evasive maneuvers to keep from getting into him as they went underneath the Speedville Bridge. Managed to do that, so Lou now up into 9th, Greenfield sitting back in 10th, but Andrew Wozencroft, I believe, has actually gotten around Xiao Lu. So we'll maybe check in with that a little bit later. But here we go again, 2 by 2. And there's Wozencroft all by himself. So maybe Lou.
Yeah,
had
he was
some
fighting
issues.
with Greenfield. Yeah, so he was fighting with Greenfield, and so wonder if Greenfield overdrove a corner. I had missed that one, but yeah, he was fighting with Greenfield in front of Lou. They were about 7 seconds ahead. So you could say, and you can already see that coming down as well. So it's about 5 seconds back from 8th to 9th.
All right, and you can see now here things starting to tighten up just a little bit as Jamison Huffman looking for an advantage, heading downhill, underbraking hard into turn number 5. Right behind him in the 223 machine is his father, but you can see Justin Huffman as well as John Wilson starting to close up on this pair of John Vogel and Jamison Huffman, the battle for third. Here, and again, Jordy Fike not all that far back. He's about 4 seconds back from that battle. But as we take a look at this, I thought that perhaps maybe John Vogel might have been, a little bit off, maybe a little off the pace and pulling the rest of the field towards him. But if we take a look at that last lap, Vogel with a 209.14, actually about a tenth faster than our two leaders, Burkhardt and Yoshikawa. So not losing any pace. These drivers, they're running about the exact same pace, but I think that's part of the problem is they can't seem to make up any ground on our two leaders.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Usually we do see a runaway pack or 2 or 3 drivers kind of drive off into the distance, but John and Jamison are doing a great job of towing along Justin and John Wilson here. Like this could be interesting towards the end if I think Jamison's going to stick behind John Vogel. Give him a little bit of pressure, try to get him to make a mistake, but I don't think he's going to force anything here for probably another 5 minutes if they think they can make inroads on the gap.
That's right. And so we've got 7 minutes to go. So another 5 minutes would put them just about halfway. Actually, with just about a lap to go, maybe a little bit more than a lap to go, about where they are on track at this very moment as they come down. And now Justin Huffman in the 223 machine, he has pulled right up to the gearbox of Jamison Huffman as they roll down underneath that Briggs and Stratton Bridge over towards turn 3. And so, we've talked about this, I think, a little bit in the past, Tyler, but you've said that, one, these cars, it's not like a Formula One car. They don't seem to wash out if they run too closely to the cars ahead. But how much does the draft really play in with these cars, especially down these very long straightaways?
So it's interesting. The draft here is slightly more pronounced. It's not to the extreme because you're usually running a slightly more trimmed out rear wing. And the only time you're really going to feel the push is coming up here through the carousel.
Yeah.
Once they get to the carousel, if you're probably within, I would say 0.3 of a second, you're gonna feel it push. You're gonna feel that front end kind of wash out from you. But again, with how wide the track is, it's not that hard to kind of peek out and get a little bit of air on that front wing.
Yeah, get it a little more downforce on there, and then kind of tuck back in.
Yeah. So it can be hard to stay up close enough for the draft to slingshot you per se, but it'll definitely keep you in distance. So you see here, he actually fell back about half a second. He's going to make all that up by the time they get to the end of the front straight again.
Yeah, I was just going to say, notice that as they went through the kink, he had dropped off a couple more car lengths, and yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you say that the one place you're going to get understeer here is obviously the carousel, and I think that's true for any car here.
Yeah.
It's very hard with that. It's very, very flat, fairly high speed, and that sweeper just seems to go on forever, and it's just hard to, it's just very difficult, whether it be a front wheel drive car, whether it be a rear wheel drive car, whether you've got ground effects, whether you've got wings, to keep the nose planted enough and keep enough weight on that nose in order to get all the way around.
Yeah, it's going to understeer whether you're behind somebody or not, depending on how much you're pushing it. But as you see there, John Vogel goes purple, first 208 of the race. And so that could be the other reason Jamison dropped back, is John Vogel just put in a heck of a lap. And I'm thinking in the next lap or two, he's going to have that draft. Once you get within about a second, it really starts to pull you in gently to those cars ahead. So it looks like it might have a pretty interesting last couple laps here.
There we go. And as they come underneath the cheese bridge and make their way down to turn 5, it looks as though Justin Huffman may have fallen off just a little bit from John Vogel and Jamison Huffman. And, interesting that you should mention that John Vogel was the first driver to get under the 209s, as our leader is Burkhardt at pretty much a 209 flat, almost a full tenth off of what John Vogel is running, and Yoshikawa at a 209.2. As we had seen Yoshikawa drop back a little bit on the last lap, but you can see here as they come down the hurry downs into turn number 8, Yoshikawa right back up to the back of the number 40 machine.
Yep, and I believe I had a very similar position to this last season with Morgan Burkhardt as well. So, you can fall off, but you can actually, if you can just get up into that draft range, you can trade back and forth laps until that point, and then you're pretty much sucked up to the guy behind. And same thing with that race as well. In past seasons, you might not want to be the first person come to the start-finish line. It does seem like Morgan as hero, who's that John Wilson and Justin Huffman going through Canada corner side by side again.
There you go, and Huffman manages to hold off Wilson in that orange and blue number 82 as he gets back in line. I'm sure he's going to want to try that again at some point. As Justin Huffman's march fell back the last 2 laps or so, you can see the distance, whereas he had been right onto the back of the 89 machine. He's now fallen just about 2 full seconds back from there, as Yoshikawa now right on the back of the number 40 machine, as we have now just 2.5 minutes remaining. So we should be on the penultimate lap. As there you go, you can see Wilson trying to come down the inside, but maybe getting on the brakes a little bit too early there, but he's still set up in good position as they come down the hill in the 3. And once again, he concedes and lets Huffman take the corner as they come out of turn 3 and start to make their way down the Marine sweep. But looking at the clock now, as we have just about 2 minutes remaining, I did not see the white flag in the air, so we should have one last lap here as Burkhardt. You can see common, I don't want to call it a trick, but common thing there to use as much of that pavement, including the entrance curbing driver's right, as possible to open up that turn 5 to make the run up the hill.
Yep, absolutely. And the only thing you get you in trouble is if you kind of sit it right in the center, you'll get a little bit of bottoming out. But as Morgan usually is very, very consistent. So, and it looks like Jamison sent it on John Vogel
there you go.
into there too. So Yeah, there. I told you 2 minutes to go, 5 minutes from where we just were. He was gonna start making moves if they didn't catch him, and so here it is. He's gonna take the lead on this one for that second pack, and maybe probably not have enough time to catch up. They're 1.5 seconds back, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see if we just end up with 2 separate battles here.
Yeah, and I think that may be exactly what we're seeing as John Vogel now steps to driver's right. He's going to try to make the outbraking maneuver going down into Canada corner, running at about 140 miles an hour before they jump on the brakes. And is he able to hold off Huffman as they come up through Bill Mitchell? You saw Huffman try to do the over-under. Then Vogel came across his nose to blunt the charge, and it looks like Vogel has taken third place back. As we continue to see the battle right behind them, the battle for fifth position with Justin Huffman and John Wilson as they continue their fight. And we are now on the last lap here from Road America with Morgan Burkhardt, Yoshikawa, and it looks like drafting by once again. Jamison Huffman takes over third place from John Vogel.
Yep, that's very interesting. I wonder if John's again not worried about it because he's gonna try to set him up either. Ideally you don't want to leave it to the last corner. That can get quite close as we've seen in the past. So I'm wondering if he's gonna try it again, same place, Canada corner, and we'll see if Jamison yields this time. You see what happens if you're on that inside. There's not much you can do about using all that exit curb. So we'll see how they get on as Yoshikawa's definitely giving Morgan the peak. Very defensive line there too.
That's right, as Burkhardt got very defensive going into 5, and John Vogel,
and there you go.
Yeah, he steps to the inside, gets around Huffman, going under braking into turn number 5, and this may set Huffman up going down into Canada. We'll see what Vogel does, how he tries to defend this as they make their way through. Just about a half a lap remaining here as our leaders come out of turn 8 underneath that Johnsonville Speedville Bridge and around this long sweeping carousel.
I'm wondering if Yoshikawa left it just a little bit too late. I think he was trying to make sure they didn't get caught by the other pack, but he did not leave himself enough time to fight Morgan and leave room for him to make a mistake.
No, exactly. This is going to be it, and doesn't seem to get as good a run as Burkhardt out of the kink, and you can see here he's just not making up any ground at all, Tyler, as they come down the Canada. Matter of fact, Morgan's able to come all the way back over driver's left, take his normal line into Canada, and lead the field up through Bill Mitchell Bend. John Vogel leads Huffman out of Canada as well. So right now it is Burkhardt, it's Yoshikawa, it's Vogel, your top 3, with Jamison Huffman only a couple car lengths back, as Morgan Burkhardt now coming out of turn 14, trying to break the draft as they come up that steep hill on the Road America straight. And we'll see if Yoshikawa can slingshot past. No, he's not going to be able to. Morgan Burkhardt takes the win. Yoshikawa will finish second. John Vogel will finish about 2 seconds back in third. Huffman just off the podium. Then we've got John Wilson, who gets around Justin Huffman on the last lap. Jordy Fike, he'll bring home his Team Esports Racer Machine in 7th. And great recovery here by Zhao Lu, who finishes in 8th position, with Deacon Greenfield finishing in 9th, and Andrew Wozencroft in the number 80 machine. He should be making his way out of turn 14. There he is, making his way up the hill underneath the bridge, and he will round out the top 10. All right, so let's take a look here. Gosh, usually, Tyler, we've got folks like Morgan Burkhardt sitting in the green room by now, waiting to be interviewed, seemingly before they ever take the checkered flag, as we now have Joaquin Effinger and John Casey crossing the stripe, Charles Vaccaro, and I believe Josh Justice and Wayne Buttermore are our last 2 drivers on the lead lap. Other drivers are all out. Greg Mack, Andrew Benna, Connor Vogel, sorry,
yeah.
And Caleb Patry, who had those first lap incidents. All right, well, tell you what, we've got John Vogel, we've got Morgan Burkhardt. Why don't we bring in John, and then we'll talk to our leader after that. So John Vogel, driver of the number 4 RE2 car, finishing in 3rd tonight. John, congratulations on your run.
Thank you. Good evening, guys. Appreciate that.
Good evening. So, why don't we start off where, I mean, at the best place to start off, which is on the start, when things got three wide. We saw Caleb Patry shoot the gap up the center there, and things got a little tight. And both Patry and Connor.
He's already laughing
Was I
about it.
involved in yet another altercation in one of these races? I didn't
Yeah, quite
see it.
possibly.
Really, God dang
Well,
it.
you didn't have any contact, but there might have been just this tiny little juke to the left that didn't leave a lot of room for Connor.
What? Oh,
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody needed a lift there. Like, what are you guys talking about?
Yeah,
I'm
well,
kidding.
obviously it wasn't you.
No, I wasn't going to lift there.
Yeah, we didn't think so. All right, so other than that, seemed to be a fairly quiet race until like the last 5 minutes or so with you and Jameson. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your strategy and how you planned on attacking those last couple of minutes?
Well, Morgan was putting such a pace down. I mean, what's crazy is the lap times were off some, but I think the track was a little slower. And he was just blistering as fast as he could go. That's all the faster I could go. And I think Jameson was, wanting to work together until he was going to, turn on me for the sake of his teammate. And I kind of knew that was going to happen, but didn't know when. And then it was a race for third. Unless something happened up front, there wasn't much left to do. So, I mean, no fault on his part. It was a great race. He was super clean and it was fun.
Yeah, it looked like and a very good strategy from you to basically hold off until the last two laps or so on Jameson. It was we were a little surprised. We both Tyler and I thought we were probably going to see you try to make that move again going down into Canada, and you got Jameson going into 5, where it didn't look like he was necessarily expecting it. He had already set up all the way driver's right to go in there, but great pass. And,
I was worried myself. That's not like the best Road America move to put yourself in front going down in a Canada corner. But I just thought, you know what? The car's sticking. I'd just take the inside, and if he wanted the rumble strips on the outside, he could have them. And I was just gonna just sort it out in Canada corner, So that was the plan, if there was any.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, and it looked like you got the car straightened up and just blocked the over under at the last second there, which was great. And but obviously Road America here, there are so many different ways to attack with all these long straightaways here. It's just a different beast than most other tracks. All right, so John, congratulations on your podium tonight. Who would you like to thank?
Carrier Air Conditioning, you guys, Morgan and Jameson and those guys for the great race, and apologies to Caleb and Connor if I squeezed them there. So, and that's it. Just have a great night. We'll see you guys in a week or two.
All right, there you go. John Vogel, driver of the number 4 Carrier Air Conditioning RE2. Thanks so much, John, for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
All right, let's bring in Nagase Yoshikawa. He finished second tonight in RE2. Congratulations on your run this evening and what Tyler told us was your home track.
Yeah, kind of. I've been there. I'm not super close to it, but I've been there countless times. So yeah, one of my favorites. I love the RE2, so yeah, glad to get a good result. I thought that we could have had Morgan there, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it looked like, obviously the two of you broke away from the rest of the pack, very early on. And, were there parts of this track where you thought you had an advantage over Burkhardt?
Well, I was running slightly lower wing, so I could have probably got him on the straight at some point. It was just about the timing, and I timed it wrong. So, yeah, no, I was definitely pulling on him a little bit on the straight. I lost the draft in the middle of the race a little bit. But I could tell I would pull like a 10th on the straights just because of the wing. So, yeah.
Oh, wow. So, and it looked like with like 2 laps to go, perhaps you didn't get the best run out of the carousel, and maybe, had actually I guess it was maybe 3 laps to go, and were maybe left a little bit on the back foot trying to make up ground. But it looked as though on the very last lap, maybe you got a decent run out of the kink and heading down towards Canada. But about halfway through, it just didn't look like you were, even with the lower wing setting, it just didn't look like you had the ability to get up even beside him there. Did you just kind of concede and let him take it at that point, or did you think maybe at one point that you just kind of shove the nose in and make a last second grab for it?
Well, my plan was to try and get him on the line out of the last corner. I just didn't get a good enough run.
Yeah.
That was always going to be the plan because I was worried he would be able to do that back. Um, so yeah, but I'm still pretty happy with the result. It was a good race, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely a great race from the two of you. And like I said, you guys had just checked out from early on. Is there anybody you'd like to thank this evening for tonight's podium?
The team Watson Racing, everyone there, all sports racing. All of the drivers in the race kept it pretty clean, so thank them. Everyone for organizing and broadcasting. So yeah.
All right, well, there you go. Nagase Yoshikawa, your second place finisher tonight in RE2. Thanks so much for joining us. And if you're going to run in the Spec Miatas, good luck tonight as well.
Good one.
All right. So, Tyler, first off, I want to thank you for joining me here for our first race tonight. And if you'd like to stick around and watch some great MX5 action, you are certainly welcome in the booth here. And I definitely love to have you. But in the meantime, and while you think that over, what we're going to do, we're going to take a little bit of a break. We're going to get set up for our next race. It is Spec Miata, the Mazda RX-5s here from Road America, the National Park of Speed, on season number 5. The spring tour, the Ray Esports Racing League. We'll be right back with that second race.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
All right, and we are back here at Road America, the National Park of Speed, for week number 6 of the Ray Esports Racing League. And I'm Greg Ginsburg, along with special guest Tyler Campbell. Thanks for sticking around for race number 2, Tyler. Appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem. You know, it's always fun to watch these guys race. It's even more fun to make fun of them while they're doing it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so I guess we could start making fun now as we've got our drivers out on track, and we're just about halfway through the 15-minute qualifying session. If you take a look here, we've got a couple of drivers that have managed to put in a flying lap, and at this point it is Morgan Burkhardt and Jamison Huffman 1-2. We've got Ryan Maloney out of the Washington D.C. region has come to join us here this evening. Good to see Ryan on track for the first time in quite some time in that number 15 machine. Quick little note, I was his father's instructor at driver's school just a couple weeks ago. Mitchell Peak in the number 56 machine, Team Esport Racer machine, currently fourth fastest. Then we've got Gary Blenaric and Bob Kucera joining us as well. So good to see them, and taking a look to see if we've got anybody else who's been out for a while. I think Tom Laurie was with us a couple of weeks ago. We've got Josh Soto here as well, coming off a great run last night in the Rickmotech series. It's a pretty stacked field here this evening in MX5. We'll tell you what, or what did I call them before, Tyler? I called them the RX5s.
Yeah, the RX5s. Yeah, we've decided that's going to be a rotary winged Mazda MX5. That's an RX5.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so let's do this, Tyler, since you've got a little bit of time. But as we are wont to do here, usually we will talk about the class that is not running with us this week. And as we mentioned, it is Spec Racer Ford. They're going to be joining us next week at Summit Point. And if we take a look back, they also raced 2 weeks ago at Lime Rock Park, where we had Jamison Huffman and Morgan Burkhardt on the front row. Hey, kind of like provisional front row right now in the MX5s. We had Justin Huffman and Caleb Patry, Grant Vogel and John Vogel, as well as Murphy Nichols making up the front of the pack. And it was pretty uneventful up at the front of the field, although both Grant and John Vogel, as well as Caleb Patry, they did get around Justin Huffman to move Justin Huffman back into fifth position. But on lap number 5, Jamison Huffman and Grant Vogel, they both found the sausage curbs over at the chicane as we were running the Grand Prix version of Lime Rock Park, and it sent them both spinning off with John Vogel collecting Grant Vogel, or maybe it was the other way around. Meanwhile, both of the Vogels went off into the grass, and that allowed both John Wilson and also Josh Justice to join the battle up at the front of the pack. But more importantly, as Jamison Huffman was running second at the time this happened, it gave Morgan Burkhardt a 5-second advantage over the entire rest of the field at Lime Rock, which is, pretty much unobtainium for the rest of the field. And he actually expanded that out to almost 30 seconds, almost half the track by the time the race ended. And so Burkhardt took the win. Jamison Huffman, who had been running in third behind Father Justin since that spin, he managed to get by Justin Huffman going through Big Ben on the start of the very last lap. And so Jamison Huffman finished in second. Justin Huffman took the last step on the podium, finishing in third. And so after 5 of 6 rounds for the Spec Racer Fords, let's take a look at the point standings. And we've got Morgan Burkhardt with a fairly clear advantage. It looks like, about 6 points separating he and Caleb Patry. Then sitting back with 70 points, Jamison Huffman. And then we've got Grant Vogel and Justin Huffman rounding out the top 5. Not nearly as close as what we had in the RE2s, but still, it is a championship that is up for grabs as we go into, I believe, what will be the last race of the season for the Spec Racer Fords next week when we get to Summit Point. And so if we now take a look at where we stand in the MX5s, the last time they raced was 3 weeks ago at Virginia International Raceway. We had Morgan Burkhardt on pole with Josh Soto right on the outside going down into turn 1. The first time we had Jamison Huffman and we had Lewis Lockshine making up the second row. And it was a pretty quiet start but we had Murphy Nichols and Mitchell Peak. They were battling for 6th position. They both got together on lap 2 going into turn 1, and both drivers had to take to the pits for repairs. Caleb Patry, who started 7th, made his way up to 4th by halfway through the race, and with 5 minutes to go, found himself in 2nd place. And on the very last lap, we had Burkhardt, we had Patry, Jameson Huffman, and Lewis Lockshine, along with Josh Soto, all nose to tail coming out of Oak Tree, heading up towards the roller coaster. It was 3 wide with Patry and Huffman on left and right, and Morgan Burkhardt in the center. Caleb Patry managed to take the lead, wins by a margin of 11/100ths of a second over Morgan Burkhardt. Jamison Huffman finished in 3rd. And if we take a look at the points, your current points leader, and talk about close, Caleb Patry with 54 points with a 2-point advantage over Morgan Burkhardt. Jamison Huffman only 5 points back from there with 47, and then Lewis Lockshine just a single point back from Jamison with 46, but it gets better than that. Running in 5th is Jordy Fike with 45 points. So positions 3, 4, and 5 in the championship, all separated by a single point each, and our 2 championship leaders separated by 2. So to say that tonight's race might be critical, Tyler, might just be a small understatement.
Yeah, just a bit. It's insanely close. It's the points are as close as these cars drive to each other. So, yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. As you already see, Morgan put in a blistering lap, almost a second ahead of Jamison, just knocking out qualifying laps left and right. And you know, if they let him get out to that lead, he's probably not going to make a mistake. You know, having driven behind him way more often than I would have liked to, he's very consistent and very quick.
Yeah, I was going to say that was the one thing I think that came out of the last race, out of the RE2 race, that you mentioned, how consistent Burkhardt is. And so you can see here as time is running down on the clock in what should be the last flying lap for both Morgan Burkhardt and Jamison Huffman. Huffman, not all that close behind Burkhardt right now, probably catching the last whiffs of a draft as they come through turn 5. And I'm sure the plan here is, well, for Burkhardt, you know, look, if he can separate himself out from Huffman, and that allows him to keep pole, you know, great. The only thing that he can do by pulling Huffman along is possibly give up the inside of row 1 at the start of this race.
Yep, or have a dramatic drift that compromises Jamison's lap possibly there. So
pull a Michael Schumacher at Monaco type deal here.
Exactly. Let me just park it right in the middle of this corner, and good luck, everybody else.
Exactly.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if Jamison comes through with a good lap. That looks like he pulled over probably and decided to abandon it. So yeah, that was his one hope, was getting that draft. But I think, you know, as long as I think Morgan probably feels better starting next to Jamison than just about anybody else.
Yeah, exactly. Those two have raced so closely together so many times over the last couple of years that, yeah, I'm sure they feel very comfortable with one another, as we've got some drivers making their last flying laps. There's Michael San Inocencio, currently 11th on the timing tower with a time of 2:32.97, and that's actually the exact same time as Greg Mack, looking to beat Mack's times. And
yeah,
actually,
he didn't need much.
Yeah, he only needed 1/1000th of a second. Well, to tie, needed 2/1000ths of a second to get around Greg Mack. Is not able to do so. Oof. and that might just be some of the disappointment in San Inocencio's.
A little bit, yeah. I think there might be something coming out there.
Yeah, so Inocencio, he's going to start on the inside of row number 6 as opposed to making his way onto row number 5. And we're taking a look now at Charles Bailey in the number 63 machine. And I think this should still be a valid flying lap for him. I think he started this lap after the checkered flag, or pardon me, before the checkered flag had come out. So we'll see if the number 63 machine can get out of 20th position. And I've raced against Charles numerous times in Volkswagen Jettas, not so much in Mazda MX-5s, but is definitely a very fast individual as he comes up the Road America straight. And let's see if he can beat his previous best of a 2:34.45, and he does, but he turns in just a 234.28, and that is good enough to move him from 20th to 19th around Andrew Benna. All right, so I think that was the last car on track. Well, actually, we do have one more driver, and that is Bob Kucera, but I think Kucera had already turned his last flying lap. So let's do this as we get ready, and we're going to have our starting grid here in just a moment. Let's talk about the sponsor for tonight's second race, and that is Grassroots Motorsports. Built for the true sports car enthusiast, Grassroots Motorsports has one mission: to be your personal guide to the sports car world. Whether it's online at grassrootsmotorsports.com, in print, or in person, the racers and builders, the car nerds at Grassroots Motorsports, take you behind the scenes and show you how to make your car better. Along the way, they'll give you a taste of everything else this hobby has to offer, from 1,000 horsepower track monsters to cool street cars built in driveways. They also maintain a collection of staff-built project cars, because hands-on technical articles, they're not typed behind a desk, they're scribbled down in the garage. To not only read, but become part of the story, head on over to grassrootsmotorsports.com. All right, and with that out of the way, Tyler, we should have the starting grid here in just a moment, as I think now we've got all of our drivers on the pit lane. Our friend there up in the starter stand, he is definitely going to dislocate a shoulder, I think.
He's just going for it. He has 11, and that's the only setting.
That is it, as he just continues to wave that flag around. All right, so let's see here. And then look, if you take a look, we got a different view, but he's still going at it. All right, here we go as we are now flipping over. Let's take a look at the starting grid, and I'll take this one tonight, Tyler. Your pole sitter in the Mazda MX-5s is Morgan Burkhardt, with an 8/10 advantage over his All Sports Racing teammate Jamison Huffman, starting on the outside of row number 1. Ryan Maloney, he will start third tonight in the number 15 machine, with Josh Soto starting right beside him in the 07. On row number 3, we've got Jordy Fike in the 09 machine, with his Team Esport Racer teammate Mitchell Peak starting right next to him. Wanshi Lin makes his return to the Ray Esports Racing League tonight in the number 30 machine. He'll start 7th, while Caleb Patry will start on the outside of row number 4 in the 198 machine. We then have Andrew Wozencroft in the number 80, starting right beside Bob Kucera. He's starting in 10th. And we've got Greg Mack, the third of our Team Esport Racer entries. He's starting 11th, with Michael San Inocencio in the number 77 machine. He's going to start 12th. Nagase Yoshikawa, who had that great run, finished second in the RE2s just a little bit earlier tonight. He's going to start 13th this evening, with Gary Blenaric, a Spec Miata and also Formula V racer, right next to him in 14th. Xiao Lu, looking for a little redemption after his RE2 race. He's going to start 15th, with Louis Lockshine 16th. And assuming our drivers don't get into one another on the rest of the pace lap here, we saw a lot of brake lockup. We've got Sean Hayes. He's going to start 17th, with Charles Vaccaro 18th, Charles Bailey 19th, Andrew Benna 20th. Then Tom Laurie and Justin Huffman will make up row number 11, with Bob Sorrell and Joaquin Effinger starting 23rd and 24th. John Casey and Wayne Buttermore, Deacon Greenfield and Kevin Langer, with John Nielsen rounding out the 29-car field. All right, and it looks like Langer and Nielsen did not make the grid. Maybe they're starting from the pit lane, but we've got a green flag in the air, with Burkhardt and Huffman in those 2 Ukraine liveried cars on the front row. Ryan Maloney trying to make a run up from the inside, trying to push Burkhardt maybe up towards turn 1. But you can see here, much like a regular Spec Miata race, not a lot of movement, all 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 as they go down into turn 1. But running very wide is Jamison Huffman. He takes to the grass, and he's going to impact the wall as cars go to try and avoid. It looks like Wanshi Lin almost got into him, and Huffman is still having problems getting that car woed up, and he gets into a couple more machines. We've got a lot of cars off here, Tyler. It looks like we had the 89, besides the 89 car, it looks like we had Deacon Greenfield go back. It looks like Sean Hayes in the number 94 went back. We've got the 36 car. It looks like that's Greenfield still having some steering issues. We've got another car, and I think it was Bob Kucera in the 48 machine, who's also fallen all the way back, as well as Gary Blenaric in the 29 machine might have been collected by Huffman as well. So just with Huffman running wide.
Yeah, and they still got issues in the back, just getting all concertinaed up. And that's really unfortunate for Bob Kucera, because he actually put in a lap right there at the end to get him 10th, and so I think he had a really good shot there. But you know, he'll make it back up there, I'm sure. There's still plenty of action going on right now. We got 2 wide. It's Wanshi Lin, and I believe that's Greg Mack.
It's the 09 of Greg Mack, Caleb Patry right behind as well. Now we also, looks like Lewis Lockshine in the 124, lost him as well. I think Bob Sorrell in the 72 fell back quite a bit. Oh, and taking a wild ride through the carousel. That is Wozencroft in the number 80 machine, as he had the rear end of his car just step out on him, and he's going to lose a number of positions going down into the kink. So talk about wild and woolly for a first lap here, Tyler.
Yeah, this is looking like a rallycross race to me. I mean, you gotta look at this. We're taking it like it's rallycross. Yeah, he's gonna come across,
and he's gonna come, and Ben is gonna take out like 5 cars as he gets the 71 machine. Oh my gosh! And somehow the 700 of Effinger manages to get by, but oh my gosh, that was unsightly there, and you just saw it coming. As maybe what we need to do here is we need to reset the field, as we've got Morgan Burkhardt, as we have another car that's gone around at turn 14, trying to gather things up.
Yeah, that was Yoshikawa going around. Looks like he spun it up somehow coming out, maybe grabbed some grass, but yeah, it's been an interesting first lap there. Yeah, that you know, at some amateur levels of racing, that might have actually been a red flag reset. You're right on that one.
I was going to say, so we've got Dennis queuing things up, and I think this is where it all started, as we had Jamison Huffman go off, and it looked like Huffman came together, and I'm still trying to pick off the car that's over all the way driver's left, that white and blue
That was
machine.
Kucera. Yeah, that was Kucera losing out on that one. Yeah, it looks like Kucera probably had a good run, and they ended up going 3 wide, but Jamison was out there in the grass, and so, you know, he was very careful trying to come back onto the track. You know, he made sure to stay on the grass as long as he possibly could, and it's just unfortunate because they went 3 wide right before he came back onto the track.
All right, and drafting by Morgan Burkhardt to take over the lead is Ryan Maloney, along with Josh Soto, who works his way into second. Move Morgan Burkhardt now back into third. Mitchell Peak in the white and orange number 56 machine. He is now running in 4th position with Jordy Fike 5th. Caleb Patry makes up 2 positions. He's sitting in 6th. And you can see now running through turn 6 and running wide is the 63 of Bailey. Bailey gets into the 80 machine of Wozencroft, and I believe also takes along with him, I believe that might have been Greenfield there, but I mean the carnage at this point is just obscene.
I don't know who's who anymore, Greg. Yeah. I'm just along for the ride at this point. This might as well be a roller coaster.
All right, and we're taking a look at the replay now of Andrew Benna playing ping pong down through the kettle bottoms, as he got into the 221 machine. We had the 700 machine, we had the 72 machine. Get caught up in that as well, of Bob Sorrell. And now we give all of our drivers a single fast repair in iRacing, but at the rate these drivers are going off, I don't know if one is going to suffice for them, as we've got our leaders now. They're making their way through Bill Mitchell Bend, and it is currently Josh Soto and Ryan Maloney battling it out for the lead side by side, with Morgan Burkhardt taking a lot of exit curbing, still sitting in 3rd. We're going to see if he is able to draft by.
Yeah, I'm wondering if he should have popped out and taken that pack with him, but he chose his horse, so we'll see where he ends up. But everybody else came out with a big head of steam, and they're going to go nearly 3 wide here, coming to turn 1. And it looks like Mitchell Peak taking 3 positions by the end of the front straight.
Exactly what it is he gets pushed up now into the lead. Peak has made up 5 positions from the start. Started in 6th position. He is your new leader, and you can see the entire field now. Well, not the entire field, I guess the remaining field, is all bottled up right behind him. Peak now opens up about a 3-car length advantage as Burkhardt now gets into the side of, I believe that was the number 30 machine of Wanshi Lin there as Soto and Maloney come down the inside. Soto now trying to move all the way to the inside. Maloney goes to cover just as Soto has to take to the grass. Caleb Patry now works his way up into second, and side by side in the battle for third, it's the 09 of Fike and Ryan Maloney as they come up the hill underneath the Corvette bridge, and right back behind them is now Josh Soto and Wanshi Lin. Oh my gosh, the cars are just moving all over the place on us, Caleb.
It's insane, and Morgan's obviously the big loser out of that one. You know, I figured he chose the wrong horse there. He should have jumped out, and he ended up losing 3 positions there. It's he's just trying to keep up and hopefully doesn't lose the draft, because you know, if they're going to keep fighting, there's not any way that he's going to be able to get back up there with enough time left.
No, and we only have about 7 minutes of this 20-minute race that have expired already. We saw Caleb Patry run very wide coming out of turn number 8, making his way underneath the Speedville Bridge. Lost a little bit of ground to Mitchell Peak, but still manages to hold off the 15 machine. As we're on board right now with Wanshi Lin, he's going to try and move down the inside on Soto and on Jordy Fike. We'll see if he can outbreak both of those cars going in the Canada corner. He's able to get Soto, but Soto's going to try and come underneath, not able to get back up to the door of Wanshi Lin, as Lin and once again Jordy Fike side by side coming through Bill Mitchell as they now head down into 14. And Wanshi Lin, we talked about this earlier. I don't know if going through 14 side by side is the best strategy there. And Lin gets back behind the 09 car, and Soto's going to have to follow them up. But wow, just wow, as we jump a little further back, and we've got Jamison Huffman leading this pack. He is now sitting in 12th after having started on the front row, having started second tonight. He's got San Inocencio in the 77 machine, who's had his share of off-track excursions. Then Nagase Yoshikawa in the 98 machine in 14th, and Deacon Greenfield part of that pack as well, as Yoshikawa now steps to the inside. He's going to try and draft past the 89 machine and is clear of them before they get under braking, but Huffman turns in a little bit late, as does the 77 machine, and Huffman works his way back around the 98 as they come down the hill over towards turn number 3. And you know, great late turn in there at turn 1 allows Huffman to do the over-under as we jump back to this battle for the lead, Tyler. And it's not getting any less interesting as Peak, his advantage is now gone. He's got Caleb Patry, Ryan Maloney, as well as Morgan Burkhardt all lined up in a row as they come through turn 6. And they've separated themselves out now by about 5, maybe 6 car lengths back to Josh Soto, Wanshi Lin, and Jordy Fike.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see, because Morgan at least has you know, Patry there, you know, obviously teammates, so they can definitely come out and make this 2 packs. It's gonna be interesting to see what Maloney does, if they're gonna take him with them. I imagine the more cars they could get past Mitchell Peak, the better. But and there we see Greenfield getting a little loose. Coming down right before the carousel. A little loose under braking there. When you come in, and much like Road America in real life, if you come in a couple of a car width, maybe a car width and a half off of driver's right, it gets a little loose over there. There is a little bit of an undulation in the pavement that will loosen a car up, and you saw the rear end step out on him a little bit under threshold braking to that corner. As we look a little bit further back in the field right now, and this is Joaquin Effinger, Andrew Wozencroft. Effinger has made up 8 positions since the start of the race. Effinger is 8 positions down. He's going to try and make up one of those positions now as they come now under braking going in the Canada corner, as Wozencroft leaves a lot of space between he and the 700 car, manages to make the pass stick, and it looks like Gary Blenark, who also has lost a number of positions here since the start of this race, he is going to make his way clear of the 700 machine as well. Yeah, exactly. And again, it's still looking like rallycross. They're taking that inside curb, and it drags them through the corner as here we go. Let's see who's picking who going into the first corner.
It looked like Burkhardt picked Maloney.
Yep.
Patry is
and
your
they
lead
freight train
car.
Peak. Yep, and they freight train Peak. They took him with them. Yep. So that's kind of what I was thinking might happen is they're just gonna go by and all pick themselves to just to move the pack and shuffle it. It's like if you ever seen any cross country truck drivers. They're just rotating front to back, front to back, front to back,
just to maintain the draft and not give up any momentum. You see the same thing in Formula V racing as Peak is now going to make a peek down to the inside, and as they come in, Peak now side by side with Maloney, but and a little bit of contact there between Maloney and Peak allows Maloney to maintain second place. Burkhardt manages to hold on to third. And so it was a pretty optimistic move there by Mitchell Peak going in the 5 to try and pick off 2 cars. And turns out he cannot get a single one. He's going to stay in 4th. But what that also does is it is bringing perilously closer the trio of Soto, Wanchi-Lin, and Jordy Fike. And actually, it's no longer a trio. What do you call 5 cars together?
Centuplets? No, wait.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe pentuplets there, as we've got Zhao Lu, Greg Mack, and I think Sean Hayes in that little group as well. So things starting to close back down at the front of the field.
Yeah, and all these guys are looking to the guys in the back are looking to draft up. The guys in the front are looking for position, but like you said, they're coming, and it's just only going to make this more interesting. We got 7.5 minutes left, 2.5 minute laps. So there's actually not a whole lot of lapping left to do. So it's going to be interesting to see if the front guys sort themselves out at any point in time and make sure they don't start losing positions to the guys behind. But we'll see.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it. Even Burkhardt gave a quick little peek to the inside, coming down in the 14. Realized that it wasn't anywhere close enough, but at least he's making Ryan Maloney check those mirrors and look back to see what's happening as they come down the front straight here, and Maloney comes to the inside. Oh, and another, looks like Michael San Inocencio. That is over by turn 5. That's the outside of turn 5. And looks like his race may be done as Ryan Maloney now comes down the inside underneath Caleb Patry. Patry now pinned to the outside as Burkhardt and also Peak choose to follow, but now Peak goes to the outside, tries to open up turn 3 and maybe get a run coming on to the Moraine sweep. But Maloney, at least for the moment, is your new leader. I don't think it's going to last all that long, however, as Peak is trying to push Patry right back up to the lead. We've got the 2 pairs all nose to tail. Burkhardt taken to the grass, probably not able to see where the edge of the pavement is, Tyler, as they come down in the 5.
And not the 2 pairs I expected to be drafting each other either, but look at this. What is it? How many does that make? Is that 9 now? It's just like Top Gun, it's like, how many? That's 9.
That's right.
That is 9 MX-5s. And it's going to get interesting. We'll see if they decide to go 3 wide, because I think it's going to happen.
That's right. For those of you who didn't get enough on lap 1, here we go again.
Lap 1 Redux. Well, hopefully not. Redux. Let's hope that it's the much cleaner version.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely see here. I having watched Josh Soto race just last night, I can tell you how aggressive he can be when he chooses to be, and certainly some of these other drivers as well. As your current leader now is Caleb Patry, and he's opened up about a car length and a half now over Mitchell Peak, back to Ryan Maloney and Burkhardt as they come through the kink, as the 07 of Soto drops a wheel, gets the car straightened up there as they make the run down the Canada corner. And let's see here, as it looks like Patry maybe having a little connectivity issues. Oh, did you see how loose Mitchell Peak got under braking there? As he was absolutely on the threshold with the rear end wagging all over the place, gets it straightened up and still manages to carry momentum up the hill into Billy Mitchell.
Yeah, he kept a lot of that, and here's Yoshikawa and Huffman coming down to Canada corner now, and they're about 2.5 seconds behind somebody we haven't talked about. Tom Laurie actually is 10 positions up from 21st to 11th, and he's been keeping a pretty decent pace. His fastest lap isn't that far off of the lead pack here, so great drive for him so far, keeping that nose clean.
Yeah, it's just been hard. He hasn't really had the benefit of the draft for a number of laps because, well, most of the cars in front of him wrecked out. So,
Precisely. Yep.
Exactly.
He's not complaining, I'm sure.
No, I'm sure he's not. But we'll have to see what he does when Huffman and Yoshikawa come up on him, probably in another half lap or so. As our leader, Caleb Patry, brings the field out of turn 3. Under, as we call it, the cheese bridge, under that Sargento cheese bridge, and make their way down towards turn number 5. Now, we talked about the RE2s doing about 141, 142. The MX5s, they're doing 135 going down in the 5. And as
Morgan's going to take 2. Yep.
Yeah, as Peak in the 56 car maybe got on the binders a little bit early there. Burkhardt was able to sneak underneath him. It looked like maybe there was maybe a little bit too much whoa from the 56 machine. And so Peak now finds himself back in 3rd, Josh Soto in 4th. Ryan Maloney, though, in that number 15 machine, who just a lap ago had been running 2nd, he is now running in 5th place as he runs wide, coming out of turn number 8 and coming underneath the Speedville Bridge.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Looks like Jordy Fike is also in this battle, so if he can make it up a little bit. Who else? Are that the only 2 Esport Racer guys up here? If they can get together.
Yeah, they're separated now they've got 3 cars between them, but yeah, we've got Peak and we've got Jordy Fike, and oh, look at this,
yep,
running
Maloney's
wide.
going for it
Maloney.
again.
Wow.
He's getting real on the edge, and he's gonna have to keep that under control because he's just gonna fall to the end of this pack, and that's gonna be it.
Yeah, maybe he's been watching Josh Soto come through there a little too much, but you got to hand it to Maloney. He kept his foot in it and had a heck of a lot of slip angle, but is able to get the car straightened up and continue, and everybody around him gave him room to recover as well. As Maloney still sitting in 5th, and you can see side by side back behind Maloney were both Zhao Lu and Jordy Fike, I think, trying to figure out exactly what's the best way to get around this guy. Kind of hard to find a way around a car that is almost sideways when you're looking at his door number.
Yep, and that's the white flag. We got last lap here. It's gone by quick, but yep, here you go. Mitchell Peak taking it around the outside. He got a great draft, and looks like Morgan's going to pick Mitchell Peak.
Yeah, Burkhardt, I think, sat behind Patry and thought maybe that isn't the fast way around, but then he switched up again as Burkhardt now switches back over to the 56 car, comes down the inside, maybe a little glove tap between Peak and Caleb Patry as they round turn number 3. We've got Josh Soto now back up into 4th position, Ryan Maloney in 5th. Right back behind them, we've got Wan Shi Lin, Zhao Lu, and Jordy Fike. That is your top 8, and that is the lead pack. And now making the run down into turn number 5, drivers left, we've got Mitchell Peak, Caleb Patry with about a half a car length up on the outside. Burkhardt trying to open that corner up as much as possible. He might lose a position to Soto as Soto comes in with a head of steam into turn number 5, gets it woed up just in time, but not fast enough to keep Ryan Maloney from sneaking by as they come through the left-hand turn 6. Maloney now has position going into turn number 7 as they come down the hurry downs, but what that has also done is that has opened up a gap to our top 3 drivers as Soto now has to try and hold off Zhao Lu going into turn number 8. And now it is Caleb Patry, it's Morgan Burkhardt, your top 2 drivers, with Mitchell Peak falling maybe 2 car lengths back. He's in 3rd, another 2 car lengths back to Ryan Maloney as they come through the carousel for the very last time here, Tyler.
Oh, absolutely. And and Mitchell Peak really got hurt there by Josh Soto, put it in so deep. It really kind of put him off rhythm. And you can see how much he was pushing there into turn 8, and here we go, side by side, Morgan and Caleb.
Here we go. Teammates. We got the 2 teammates, Patry to driver's right, Burkhardt to driver's left. Burkhardt gets by Patry and cuts across his nose before they get under braking into Canada. And Patry a little bit later on the brakes, but has nowhere to go except for the rear bumper of the number 40 car. And as they come up into Bill Mitchell for the last time, it is Morgan Burkhardt. He's going to try and hold off. You can see he stays a little bit to the inside, does not come all the way over driver's left to set up the 14. That's going to compromise his speed coming out. And now we're going to see if Caleb Patrick can slingshot past the number 40 machine, and he's got a good run as they come up the hill towards the start-finish line. Caleb Patrick, he's got a nose up on Morgan Burkhardt, and as they reach the line, your winner tonight in MX5, it is Caleb Patrick. Margin of victory, you can see it right there, 48 thousandths of a second. Mitchell Peak, he's going to come home in third. Ryan Maloney finishes in fourth tonight. Josh Soto will come home in fifth. Then we've got Zhao Lu, Jordy Fike, Wan Chi Lin, Greg Mack, Sean Hayes, who we didn't talk much about tonight. He was caught up in some of that early race melee. He will come home in 10th position. Jamison Huffman, who started on the outside of the front row, he's going to finish just out of the top taps. But you know, that's what Yoshikawa was talking about, how he wanted to finish things up in the first race. And it's, you know, I've seen so many tight and close real life Spec Racer Ford races end that way, Tyler, you know, that it's just possible to get a great run out of the final corner and up the hill and beat somebody to the line with the draft. And you saw it there. Caleb Patrick, he executed it to perfection. So let's do this. We've got our top two finishers, Morgan Burkhardt and Caleb Patrick. Let's bring in Morgan, and then we'll jump over to Caleb. And there you go, Morgan Burkhardt finishing second tonight by mere inches and mere hundredths of a second. Margin 48 thousandths separating he and Caleb Patrick. Congratulations on your run tonight. And so, Morgan, I think before we talk much about the end of the race, why don't we talk about the beginning of the race? And Tyler, you're here. I'm sure you'll agree. It just seemed completely out of control.
Yeah, it was anything but control. I was saying it looked a little bit more like a rallycross race than anything, but it allowed y'all to make a nice breakaway. Sans Jameson there. So yeah, talk about that. I actually really amazing pass down into Canada corner there. That was, you made the pass and cut off the entry, but I was kind of interested. It looks like you took a really tight line into the final quarter that compromised your exit. What were you thinking with that battle there at the end?
Well, at the end, like you said, I get in front of him before Canada corner and then tried to take the inside away and then blocked off the over-under and kind of just sat a little bit on the apex. And then into the final corner, I got a little worried because he was really close and I didn't want to just leave the door open for him to send it up the inside and just take it. So had to kind of go a little bit conservative on entry and it ended up compromising the exit. So you live, you learn, but it was a lot of fun.
All right, so yeah, and it looked like, again, as you said, you kind of compromised the exit there, and you know, and that's such a common thing, whether it be in the sim or whether it be in real life. It's one of those things. It's very hard to defend. It's just a long run up and up that hill. The hill itself obviously makes it very difficult if you do compromise that exit. So who would you like to thank for tonight's finish in the MX5 race, Morgan?
I for sure like to thank the rest of the team for helping us. I think we put on a really nice show. It was a bit, honestly, I have no idea what happened in the first half of the race. It was all too hectic to remember. So yeah, thanks to the team. Everybody did a really good job tonight. My parents for making all of this possible, and the broadcast crew. Tyler, you're what, second time broadcasting?
Good stuff. Second time.
Good
Yeah,
stuff.
it's crazy.
You, Greg, I don't even want to count how many times, but good job to you.
Well, I can't count how many times. And by the way, unfortunately, we didn't catch your special delivery tonight, Morgan. You'll have to run it next week.
All right. Well, I'll have your face on it by next week, so it'll be better.
No.
yeah. You looked up, but didn't look out, Greg. He didn't actually have the face on it this time.
Don't tell Andrew Benna he's going to want royalties if you do that. All right. All right, everybody. There you go. Morgan Burkhardt finishing second tonight in the Spec Miatas, the Mazda MX-5s, driver of the number 40 All Sports Racing Machine. And so let's jump now over to our winner, and that was Caleb Patrick. So, Caleb, first off, congratulations on your win.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
It was. And so, we were just talking to Morgan and as he said, he doesn't remember the first half of the race because of how hectic it was. Why don't you tell us, because, obviously you had probably a pretty good view of the melee that started to unfold ahead of you from, I guess it was Maloney and Jameson as they were coming down into turn 3. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you saw?
Yeah, sure. So that first turn, I just saw cars going off to my left. People were kind of scrambling in front of me, so I wasn't really sure where to go. I had to get on the brakes a couple of times, and as soon as I got on the brakes, I just see like cars 3 wide stacking up behind me, looking to my outside, looking to my inside. So I was just doing my best to hold my line and not get into any trouble. And I guess mayhem kind of happened behind me, but after that, I just kind of tried to put my head down and go forward as quick as possible because I could see the leaders were getting away. But then we all kind of stacked up there going into 1, and I was able to get a run, and I think I got up into 2nd before turn 3. So after that, it was kind of just some fun pack racing, just trying to stay ahead and keep the guys behind me.
Yeah, I was going to say it started to look like, typical Spec Miata racing. You had a little bit of there was a little bit of a breakaway after everything happened on the first corner, the first lap, and then by the end of the race, it was a 9-car train, obviously all battling it out for the win there. So as you came down into Canada, or you came out of the kink, let's say, for the very last time, were you thinking or planning to make a move on Burkhardt going down into Canada, or did you have designs on what you did, basically let Burkhardt maybe compromise his exit a little bit out of 14 and try and slingshot around him going up the hill?
I think going into there, that was kind of my backup option. I initially wanted to challenge him going into Canada, but he got too far ahead of me and then defended, so there was nothing I could do there. And then kind of the backup plan was, just to see if try to get him to, go offline a little bit through 14, not get as good of a run, and then slingshot him coming up the hill. And thankfully it worked out.
Yeah, it absolutely did, by 48 thousandths of a second. So Caleb Patry, who would you like to thank for tonight's win?
Well, certainly you guys for the awesome broadcast, Steve Ray and everybody else who puts on these races. Also shout out to the entire All Sports Racing team for their support, and Team Watson Racing and Team Watson Racing Setups.
All right, there you go, everybody. Caleb Patry, driver of the number 198 Mazda MX-5, your winner tonight in Spec Miata, or in the MX-5s. Congratulations, Caleb.
Thank you, guys.
All right, so as we get ready to wrap things up here tonight, and unfortunately, Mitchell, I see Mitchell Peak in the green room. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to have time for Mitchell here this evening. But as we wrap things up from Road America, first off, Tyler, I want to thank you for sitting in this evening with me. And don't tell Brian Donati, but you may have found a new job.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Don't tell. I was like, don't tell my wife I might have found a new job.
Oh no! Well, believe me, she's going to want to know how much you get paid, and it's not going to end well for you in that conversation. But want to thank you for joining us here tonight, Tyler. Of course, we want to thank, as Caleb mentioned, Steve Ray, the Ray behind Ray Esports Racing, as well as Greg Hubler, as well as Tyler Campbell and all the other administrators of the league. Want to thank Dennis Branch as well, who I think was about as confused as the rest of us as this last race started to unfold, and did one heck of a job keeping the cameras on all the action. Want to let you know, of course, that we will be back next week. We're going to be at my home track and Brian's home track, Summit Point Motorsports Park. We are going to have at Summit Point the MX-5s. They are going to return again, and so if you like the carnage, if you like the great racing that you saw here tonight with the MX-5s, they always race incredibly well. at Summit Point as well. And then the Spec Racer Fords, they will mark their return after 3 weeks away, and they will race at Summit Point as well. Wanted to remind everybody, if you like what you saw tonight, if you liked the broadcast, please give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already, go ahead and subscribe to Apex Racing TV and click on that notification bell. You can find out about all the great virtual motorsports action around the world as it goes live, and you can see more just like tonight's amazing MX5 race. So for Tyler Campbell, for Dennis Branch, I'm Greg Ginsburg. We'll see you next Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, from my home, Summit Point Motorsports Park.